Well, hello and good afternoon. It is January the 2nd. We are here and we are going to talk about some pretty interesting topics about love styles and relationships a little bit, I guess. We're going to have that conversation today. So, I'm bringing on one of my favorite people, Satori Seals. Welcome, Mr. Seals. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think your camera's frozen, but I'm doing well.
Oh, am I frozen again?
Yeah.
Am I better? I don't look frozen on my end, so I don't know if it's freezing
It's,
on your end.
yeah, it's cool.
Okay.
I mean, it's
So,
frozen. Go ahead.
okay. So, I guess we should just get started talking about love styles and relationships. And let's discuss something that um many people don't really talk about too much, which is how can we really do better in this love affair arena here? We're not doing too good. And you and I are both doing these coaching sessions and talking to many people. Even when I'm just conversating, just out and about, people just start coming up and start talking about how relationships are really kind of difficult. And so, I don't know. I don't know where we can start, but what do you think is some of the reasons why relationships seems to be going really left here and people are not harmonious, people are not relating well, people are not um really functioning in a good place. So let's start with that. I guess what would you say is the reason that people are just not doing too hot with relationships?
I mean, one is just that everybody's trying to relate out of instinct, and you're trying to relate out of instinct when we all have been conditioned to certain ideas, views, and things like that. So we're not even operating from an instinctual level in relationships. So we're just by proxy, or
Hmm.
like in relationships. In a relationship, we don't have no skills, we don't have no tools. We go to work, we desire certain jobs or certain professions or certain initiatives or endeavors we try to entertain. We realize I
Right.
got the mindset, some type of skill sets or
Yeah.
something to make me competent to be able to be functional or to have a higher chance for success. When we
Right.
approach a relationship, we don't even do that. Matter of fact, we do the actually opposite. We want to resist tools that are available, or we just so then we get stuck inside conventionalities that society has put in place. And
Right.
so the same, then you mix that with instinct, then you mix that with indoctrinations, then you mix that with religion, you release that, uh, then with
Yes.
our own motive for
Right.
relationship. So you got this big gumbo of this whole fusion of what we're calling a relationship, and it's
Hmm.
just really a shit show. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
we're not even intentional. We most of the time, most people not even being chosen from a space of purpose. So so the whole thing is until we understand it requires a skill set. The reality is we all can relate, but we're all not fit for certain relationship dynamic or structures that
Right.
we're trying to put ourselves in. And so we put ourselves in something that doesn't really fit or that we
Right.
don't really qualify for, then it
Yes.
goes bust. It goes bust. So
Yes.
um, and so we're at a point right now where we need to pause and look at the obvious things and look at obviously there's things that's not working, not clicking. We can continue to hide behind certain ideologies and say it was supposed to be like this or that or
Right.
whatever. But you still, even right now, you still don't hear no one talk about tools. I mean, you might hear people mention about communication, but it's really in the aspect of breaches and stuff like that. But
Right.
we don't have an approach, and then we're all trying to fit inside one box as well
Let me
too.
I think something that we talked about earlier, and I think this is important, we touch on this, is you said something very powerful earlier. You said that some people should be, even if they're in relationships, should maybe only interact. Maybe they should interact once a month or maybe twice a month. They shouldn't be interacting every day. Let's talk about that because I think people want to hear the real raw truth. Not everybody should be not everybody is in a and let's also say that just because you're not someone that can be together every day doesn't mean you have to just get rid of them either. So
Right.
let's talk about that. See, because a lot of times we're not talking about the raw. We're just talking about what making people feel okay. No, let's get down to it, Seals. We know what it is. People shouldn't be in people's presence every day. Let's be honest.
I
And a lot of
mean,
people living in the same house
yeah,
should not be because it's not
yeah,
healthy. They don't like each other all like that, but they may
yeah,
love each other. They may they may have a very great interaction with each other on occasion. However, every day, no, we don't need to
no.
be together every day. It just doesn't serve us well as a couple, as a relationship. Sometimes we need to be a little more honest about the fact that mm-mm, we cannot be together every day. Although we may love each other and like each other and have great intimacy on occasion, we can't be together every day. And we shouldn't live under the same roof either. Let's talk about that, Seals, because you talked about that earlier and made a very great point. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's be honest. I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, I guess we was talking, it's kind of funny. I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm in a space, real life, and sometimes we have a tendency just to veer on contemporary, or different kind of stuff, and we just kind of
Marriage.
look.
Go ahead and just say it. Seals marriage. People think everybody should get married.
Well,
That's
that
what it
too.
is, and live together or whatever. It's
Yeah,
marriage
I
that's
mean, the
irritating,
thing,
and not
yeah,
everybody fits that.
yeah. The thing is like you said, everyone doesn't really fit the design to be in each other's company, uh,
No.
24/7, or
Mm,
uh, spend a significant amount of time in each other's proximity. Some
no.
people, by design, can still be very functional, still be very, you know, still benefiting if they get honest with themselves. That they don't need to be inside each other's company or and within someone's proximity so frequently. And
Right.
sometimes the relationship might last longer, and they might find themselves in a more healthy, steady state when let's say, for example, you might see each other once a week or twice
Yes.
a month. You know what I'm
Why
saying?
do okay, and let's keep it raw, Seals. When people are dating, they tend to have more event less events that aren't so desirous because they're spending less time in each other's presence. So they're having maybe a few phone conversations in between the times of the physical time one on one. And then they also may have less time to where they're not constantly in each other's face. We have this common saying that the heart grows fonder, distance makes the heart grow fonder. But we act like that doesn't apply to relationships.
Look at common sense. You look at, you go to work, and people at work, you know, uh, don't get along, or they actually more better off apartments and things like that. So, it's
Right.
just funny. People don't. We just got to get to the point looking at some common sense stuff. Some people are actually much better off living apart together. We call it LAT. Living apart together.
LAT.
Some, because the reality is some people don't have the skill set. Half of the,
Right.
I see someone talking shit, but at the end of the day, you probably don't have the skill set to be with someone every damn day. You know what I'm saying? That's just the reality of it. You don't have it. You're
Right.
not agreeable. the term relationship means agreeable. We're still
Right.
we think relationship and marriage is the same thing, and it's not. It's a relationship under a structure, up under a jurisdiction. I mean, so we got all this stuff mixed, and that's what I mean.
Right.
We just
Right.
we're not clear.
But that
Relationship,
and
the
that is why
relationship.
there's so much confusion. That's why there's so much confusion and so much disarray.
So relationship is about agreeing. So
Yes.
those who lack the ability to agree
Mhm.
over extended periods of time are not going to have thriving, productive relationships. It don't matter what type of structure you're entertaining. You know what I'm saying? So if you're someone
Yeah.
that's liable to have more disagreements the more time you're together, then you're going to
Yes.
have more volatile, more dysfunctional relationship. And y'all might have some compatibility, whatever you got in place, but you might spread it apart. You have less frequent engagements. You might
Yeah.
find yourself, it's like iron the clothes. You might find yourself being able to iron out the wrinkles by putting
Yes.
space in there. Then y'all
Yes.
might begin to really see each other a little more clearly, because that's part of what y'all need inside y'all's dynamic. But if
Yes.
we keep trying to conform to it's supposed to be like this when it doesn't really fit your structure, how do we know the
Right.
volatility that you got? So
Right.
that's what I mean. So a lot of times it's not making up as you go. It just comes down to understanding who the fuck you are. You know what I'm saying? You
Okay,
know,
and okay, let's be honest about I
pause
can
on
be
me.
honest.
Yeah, pause quick. Let me give me something quick. Go ahead, keep talking.
Okay. So what I want to make mention of is I'm an only child. So I was raised with just me. It was just me and only me to deal with. And so I'm not someone that gets lonely very often. I can have a lot of um relating. However, I do enjoy my aloneness. I don't have an issue with being by myself. But I
Right.
find that it could be challenging for those that maybe were raised with a lot of people in the home to actually be alone. That could be a challenge for them. So what I'm saying to you is that yes, love affairs, um we seem to assume work best when we are under the same roof and we, decide that we're going to be together um on a day-to-day basis and just under each other's face and all the time, and we're finding out that it's not working too well. um and you remember we used to do a internet a long time ago. We did an internet
Radio
radio
show.
show
Yeah.
called Poetic Conversations, and we had this discussion about living apart together. And one of the things we learned in that is that people in the UK were actually starting to, um, by design, they started to decide to, rather than marry and stay in the same home, they decided to marry and live apart. So the wife had her home and the husband had his home. And they noticed that in that
The
design,
morale improved. The morale improved. And that's what I'm
the
saying. That was
morality.
measured. That was captured by social scientists. And the
Yes.
reality is that's not far-fetched. The reality is there's more than one way to relate. And so if anyone's sitting there thinking it's supposed to be one way to relate, it always shows a level that you're at. It doesn't mean that what you're
Right.
saying is wrong. The problem you're not realizing is that there's other different ways that is functional, that is beneficial for those that are in it. And so
Right.
the end of the day is, but we'll continue, and this is the foolishness that we'll do. We'll
Right.
see the failure rate climbing up,
Yes.
and will fight and try to defend notions, right?
Right.
To defend the failure rate,
Yes.
not recognizing it's a high failure rate. So obviously, all the mindsets, all the practices, all the orientation that people are entertaining and dieting off of socially,
Right.
obviously is leading to the high failure rate, or it wouldn't be there. So when
Period.
people call it an alternative, it jars the
Right.
mind because it just freezes someone's
Mm,
person,
mm,
at that moment, their intelligent level to think outside the box. And so they want to get bitey or like, oh, well, I can't.
right.
The end of the day is that there's different ways, and then you got different phases that adults go into. For
Yes.
example, an empty nester mindset and
Hmm.
setup is totally different than an early adulter. The early
Right.
adult setup is going to be different. People's in the mid adult years in the second tier, and what their
Right.
interests are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a
Yes.
total different mindset and a total different phase that you're in. And
Right.
so, different phases and shifts. You know what I'm saying? Just like the weather changes, just like the season changes, there's
Right.
different changes that we as individuals are going to go into just by proxy of the state of life that we're in, or the phase of life that we're in. And so,
Presley
so
says, "I need answers, man."
what
Presley's
do you
needing
say?
answers. He's probably in this dynamic where it's just smothering. I don't think we understand how important it is. Hey, hey, just a minute. I don't think we understand how devastating this is that we get frustrated.
Right. Well, I mean, if you lived it, right? Saying that's another thing about me, I'm not going to talk out of theory. It's just a reality, and some people, and I know I coach many people who actually kind of not inside each other's company all the time, and they're thriving. So it's just there's different type of ways to relate. And again, to bring that back
Presley
again,
says that he says that the traps are smothering.
they
So
are,
he's suffocating. Yes.
they are. In most cases, it is and it will because of because we're trying to find ourselves inside a certain confine. If we be honest with ourselves, and that's another issue we not, we be honest with ourselves, we're in these different type of constraints, and we compromise to be inside these type of structure because we only saw there's only one or two options to operate in, and it's not matching our natural tendency, our natural just mode of operating. And that's where the love styles piece comes into play, is
Right.
understanding the different love styles, and
Yes.
so those different love styles fundamentally are the ways we express the love in terms of how we think, operate, structure, how we
Yes.
want to structure ourselves, how we want to engage ourselves, and so forth. And we
Yes.
at best we might get pitched at us through society, depending on what culture you're from.
Right.
What one, the most three. But as you know, inside like the living soul numerology system, there's 9 different love styles, and it's just not just 9 by itself. Because when you start to put them together as possibilities, there's 81 possibilities with those 9, and then when you sequence it, there's like over there's I mean there's an abundance way how we're relating and engaging it. But to make it simple, if you got 2 individuals, right, and we're talking about the numerology side of things, and we got 4 different primary numbers assigned to each person, then that means there could be 8 different love styles in the mix. So the relationship comes down to pointing to a skill set I was talking about. What is your skill at interplaying? You know what I'm saying? We've been sold, most of us, about compromising. Well, if you're compromising, somebody's winning and somebody's losing, right? And so that's not a relationship. Why you want to be in a relationship where someone's constantly winning and losing? You're going to build a relationship based off of scoring points. And that's what most of them are in. And depending on whoever feel like they're losing in terms of the points they've been tracking, they're upset. Then they get up. If they don't get a divorce, they shift the morale in their home, and they're trying to compromise. And now it's this tick for tack. If I do this, and it becomes very, very performative, right? Or you're in hostage because you don't want to lose certain privileges, uh, certain assets. You know what I'm saying? Or certain benefits you get from that person. And so when we get caught up in constraints and rules, that's what we begin to love by. And love is not a rule, right? Love's not a rule. Love is an expression. Love is experiential. So until we understand the skill set, how we can express love in a way where it's more agreeable over extended periods of time, then we're moving in a very productive and a very peaceful and a loving uh direction of space. When it's not, we're going to have to look at it and see like what's the road bumps, what's the stumbling blocks, where are the subtle hindrances,
Right.
you know, going on right there.
Yeah, and I think that if we're honest, a lot of times we can't really even tolerate dealing with ourselves very
Right,
much by ourselves. You know
right.
what I'm saying? So we definitely need to be honest about how much time we actually need to just kind of reset, kind of get back to how we're focusing on resetting ourselves, our own personal living soul. That needs to be really clear inside us first, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but again, a lot of us, again, like I said, you said earlier, a lot of it just, we're relating out of instinct. There's obviously there's attraction, but we don't understand the degree of the attraction. We know this person piques my interest. I feel good with this person. And,
Right.
like I said, when you start to build a life together or trying to be intentional, you start to
Right.
realize, like, for example, I mean, we're parents, like we got grown kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There was
Right.
there's a phase in your parenting, I hope, where you was trying to teach, your children or your child how
Hmm.
to act with others, how to share with others. Some
Right.
did well with it, and then some did not do well with it at all. And then when they
Right.
go to a larger society outside the home construct and go into school, they got to learn into there. And as we see, some do it very well and some don't. So what makes you think something is different when we're trying to make the choice to form an intentional relationship under whatever contract or whatever it is, and act like those same problems that we had as children or we witnessed that children go through, that it still won't exist if we haven't mastered the basics of relating.
Right.
I mean,
That has to
so
that and that's such a difficult thing to get used to.
right. That's all I always make the comment. People I say, study kids, because we adults we gotten so smart, and we've gotten, we're so caught up in our own jaded perspectives that we let the simplicity of being childlike.
Yes.
When you look at kids before kids get jaded, they could just interact out of pure uh affinity for each other.
I love that word affinity. We don't use that word enough. So
I
where we
mean,
to
you
where
know,
we actually understand the power of that word. That's a powerful word to where we actually are not being so. I would say a lot of times we have a tendency to try to control someone else, control another human being's behavior. We love to do that. We constantly find ourselves always trying to be like, don't do this and don't do that. Your mate or your partner or your lover or your husband or your wife or whatever you got going on, they are not your children. You should be able to allow them to be who they are. And I think we lose a lot of that because we're so busy trying to control them instead of mastering who we are inside.
that's just the result from the
Mhm.
energy behind the constructs that we've been sold. You have no
Right.
choice but to entertain those behaviors and those ideas unless you begin to renounce it. And so that's the
Yeah.
problem. Right now, people who listen right now be highly triggered based off what I said, even though what I'm saying is just common sense. But
Yes. But
but
what you
but
said was true. We can't, some people we cannot be, whether we are lovers or not. Sometimes we cannot be in each other's presence every day. Sometimes we cannot talk all day. Sometimes, and then there's others. Now let's also flip the script. Sometimes there are some people that we can be in their space and it's not, we obviously have a understanding or a almost like you said an affinity to where we can flow in and out of our space
without force,
inside, pardon.
without any force, I was agreeing with you. Without any
Right.
force,
Yeah. So that in those types of arrangements or relationships, yes, you can be in each other's presence on a continuum and actually lose time with each other and don't feel like, oh my God, this person is too much or this person. But however, that's not common, but it is, there are, relationships where I have like an aunt and uncle, they're just, I always say of one heartbeat, they just, I can't imagine seeing one without the other. And it's not because one's trying to control the other or tell the other to be with them all the time or whatever. They just almost have the same heartbeat, if that makes sense. It's like
Yeah,
they flow together. And so on the flip side, you can also be um I think in that dynamic you can also have a flow where you can actually be okay in your togetherness, if you will.
yeah, just people just they truly are relating. They house a high degree of being agreeable. Cause I'm not going to extend. I'm not really going to extend and go too deep. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because we can't even get that part. So I don't need trying to. At the end of the day is how
Right,
long? What's the high percent that you can
right.
be in someone's company and be high agreeable before you even disagree? And so in the end of the day, people be honest. Most people they score very low. But then you do
Right.
have a lot of people who score very high, who could be in each other. It could go days and days, months and years. There's a lot of people that can interact and they might have two arguments in a year, and it's not even a volatile argument. It's just a minor disagreement in terms of miscues. That's foreign to a lot of people
It
where
is.
people think it's very normal that you almost every other 7 days you're having these borderline toxic uh, tantrum like disagreements and stuff like that. I'm here to let you know that's not even normal. But we have embraced it being normal because a lot of us are sitting inside this type of structure where
Yes.
we feel that because I have to be everything to this person. So now I'm frustrated because this person cannot be everything that I need for them to be. That's a whole nother conversation, but I'm just breaking it
As an
down.
example. Right.
People are listening. And so, or you trying to be all to somebody that you might not be. We might match in different areas, but socially and
Hmm.
intellectually, it don't mean that you're discounted. You can vibe with me, but you might not score that very high, or I might not score that very high with you, and the things that really occupies you consistently, intellectually, and socially. For
Right.
example, you might be into daytime shows, and every time I talk to you, you want to talk about the ins and out by a daytime show that you watch. I don't give a damn about that. It don't mean that we can't be compatible. I mean we have a certain flow, but I
Right.
might be more into um,
The
things as
basketball game.
or a basketball game, right? Or
Right.
something like that.
Yep.
And so and instead of making it become a moment of clashing, just become a moment of understanding, like this area right here. So don't get upset if I'm talking to someone that kind of matches that interest in that particular area of myself.
Right.
See, that's mature. People can't handle that right there. I just said right there. Oh no,
Right.
like no, this, you know what? We engage this person right here, and we kind of have we kind of spin around a similar interest that we end up
You're right.
conversating naturally about. So why does that have to be an indirect violation with you or
Right.
me being in violation with me? And it's like, but again, we're just not. And like I said, the basic measurement for relationship is how are you able to agree over extended periods of time, right?
Now
And
let's talk about the living soul real quick because we don't have a huge amount of time.
yeah,
Let's talk about the living soul, and what we're talking about here is really a part of what we're saying. You mentioned that there is a. You said there was 9 different love styles, correct?
right.
So why don't you explain that just briefly, and then explain to the viewers how they can actually get their get their own personal report, because a lot of times people don't really even have this knowledge. So the living soul report alone is really powerful, and I think it can help some people start somewhere and get a little bit better with their clarity.
Get some insight. I mean, just to
Yeah.
keep it simple, the love style, we have different ways we can express love. There's different ways we're going to choose our partners. There's different ways where we're going to feel attracted or how we think inside the scope of a relationship or a dynamic. There's certain things that we might be willing to be easy to tolerate or things that we not. It's just it's a basis, it's the axis behind how you're going to operate and engaging in a certain type of level of intimate a relationship outside of being platonic, right? And it doesn't mean we ignore the platonic part in it. um but we're just it's acknowledging that fundamentally there's 9 different love styles. And
Right.
so, for simplicity, when you bring people together, we say, two people together, and we
Mhm.
know, so numerology. When I do the relationship numerology on people, we
Mhm.
have 4 different numbers that we begin to trace and build the case and all that kind of stuff to pull out different understandings about themselves and so forth. And the energetics revolve
Right.
around the relationship. But based
Yes.
off of 4 different numbers, you look at it, I'm also engaging somebody else that has 4 numbers. So like I mentioned before, so right there could be a possibility of 8 different numbers. In other words,
Yes.
it could be 8 different love styles in just the mix of that. And it comes
Yes.
down to what's the gravity exchange in those numbers, right?
So
And the
when you say
gravity exchange
gravity, so the
is
gravity meaning that there's like a is it like a pull with each other?
yeah, yeah. So
Okay, so there's like a pull.
yeah, if there is a pull or is there a push,
They're a
right?
push,
So
right?
yeah, what I'm saying. So the gravity, um, the gravity number,
Mhm.
I mean, based off of those numbers, is
Mhm.
going to tone or give us an indication, the probability of what's that pull like, what that push is like, and it's all coming from someone's alignment, energetic alignment, based off of what we refer to as a soul archetype or the love style. And
Yeah.
so the love style aligns with each archetype. So we begin to get to understanding, and it's interesting when I sit down, people are like, oh wow, this really does more comforting for me. Well, yeah, it's comforting for you
Right.
because it matches your tendency. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
what we find ourselves doing is we kind of get inside relationships and we kind of get pulled out of our natural tendency. This is why we always say you have to be willing to compromise. No, you
Right.
don't. You need to
Right.
find your flow. You need to find
Yes.
out where, you need to tap into the skill set of interplaying. Like I said before, if you get caught up in talking about I'm compromising this, compromising that, you now are bringing the
Mhm.
recording system into your relationship. You're now doing the IOUs are coming in your relationships. You're scorecarding everything. And so, like this,
Right.
like the old saying is, love bears no record. So your record keeping inside a
Mhm.
relationship is doomed to sit there and have a
Don't
damn.
understand.
I mean, just
Yes.
what it is. So love styles help us understand each other,
Right.
help us understand maybe a barrier that might be creating someone else, or I might misunderstand it, or I might not fully comprehend it because the way I think and process might be different the way you think and process. So maybe we need to kind of
Right.
work it out so we understand it from your point of view and you understand from my point of view to get
Right.
to a understanding and we can, oh, okay, I see how we can figure out. We got to realize that we can configure,
Mhm.
right, customize
Mhm.
our relationship around our soul gravity, around our love styles as it sees fit for us.
Yes.
How we
Yes.
relate here might look different than how you relate over here, and how you relate here might look different when you relate over here. And
Yes, because
so
we're all individual and we all have our own gravities.
everybody has their own gravities, and everybody's going to create their own mix. You can
Yes.
argue it if you want
Especially in
to.
the interaction. Yes.
Yes,
And
you're
in
going
the
to create
interplay.
exactly. So that's just what it is. Now, some of people really want to kind of, what, um, let me get an understanding. Yeah, you tap in because these are
Yes.
the things that we bring out, and it's not based off opinion. It's really based
No.
on the numerology, the math behind what's aligned with
Yes.
us, and it helps us kind of understand it. And a lot of people are benefiting. There's a lot of people who were having a lot of conflict in relationships, and I sat with. And once they start seeing numbers, like, oh, they're able to kind of like dial back, like, oh, yeah, just pause, look at from different reasons. Don't be so much in the response. You know,
Yes.
let's uncover the tension. Let's uncover what the roadblock might be, because it might
Yes.
be going in your numbers. And it's not saying it's to cancel each other out. It's
Right.
saying give yourself a chance to understand each other and
Yes.
see if you do have an ability to interplay in the mix of when y'all come together of what it's creating, because you got your own energy field. When you come
Yes.
together, you create another energy field. And how do y'all respond and act and interact inside that is going to be is relative to your love style matrix or your love style mix. And so that's what all this is
Right.
really all about, is that to tap in, just to kind of tap into um, that type of understanding. And it takes time because
It
it's
does.
it's it's a new thought,
It
right? Because
is.
the average person thinking like, well, it's supposed to be like this. If you ain't this to
They-
me, whatever, whatever. If it's 50-50, or this, oh, we got a whole bunch of stuff.
You
We
got
got
a
a whole
lot of
bunch of
stuff going
slogans.
on.
Yeah, we got a
That's
lot of slogans out there.
outside of the
Mm.
actual understanding of your own personal love style and your own personal love matrix that a lot of people don't understand.
They
And
don't
because
understand.
there's no understanding of personal understanding of self first, how do I know how to relate to someone else? Well, I don't. I'm just winging it. I'm doing the best I can. And a lot of
Right.
times our best isn't doing too well because we don't know
Right.
what we're doing. First of all, we don't
Right.
have any idea of mastery of self, of what we need to get done and how to do it. So
Right.
I love that we have the living soul as an actual guidance system for everyone that really wants to be a little more um intentional in their relationships. Numerology is powerful when you actually use it to your advantage of understanding you, understanding what actually can take place from your understanding of yourself. Now, see, when you understand you and you study you, again, you're learning a lot about, oh, this is why I do this, or this is how come I seem to have these mannerisms or these makeups in my soul. I already by design have certain natures and
Right.
I don't realize that I have them because
Uh,
I'm so busy judging everyone else and what he or she isn't doing and all of this. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you haven't even mastered you.
or just understanding yourself. And it just comes down to what is your skill and ability to agree? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just it's like just keep it that simple. What is
Right,
your ability to agree? Are you agreeable or not?
right.
That's all
Well,
relationship is.
I am so glad we talked about this because again, you said something very powerful earlier, which is some people don't need to be around each other all the damn time.
They don't. They
In
don't.
love with each other or not,
Yeah,
in a
it's like,
relationship or not, married or not.
yeah, it's like iron it out. Put the iron in and spread up the wrinkles.
And it's
No,
okay, but and also it doesn't mean you have to just be disposing of them. You
that's what I'm
just
saying.
maybe you
Yeah,
just
like, if you close together,
we
there's
just
more
need
wrinkles.
to reinvent it. Let's reinvent the interaction. Maybe we need to just structure some things. Maybe you need to have
Spread up the
your
fat.
end of the scope and I'll have my end of the scope. And then we can actually build a newfound understanding from just alone pulling our own gravity report and understanding, oh, so you are this and I am this. Oh, so this is where we're having the tension or the conflict. We're going to put the link in the comments so that you can get your own personal gravity report. You can also sit down with Satori Seals or myself and we can go through and understand what it is that you're struggling with in your love affairs. We understand because we do coaching. We have a lot of conversations and sessions where we see that hmm, you're having some difficulty with being okay with someone else's way of being without having to feel that you have to control them. And you'll start to feel a sense of freedom. Am I right, Satori? Like you feel a sense of freedom once you start to get the understanding of your own living soul. The gravity report alone helps to really reveal the power in itself of understanding, like you said, the different dynamics and love styles that could possibly be in your
In your chart.
interplay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I
yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much for coming on here. I know I put you in a little rabbit hole there, but we had to talk about that. We
Yeah.
couldn't come on here and be all professional. We got to talk about the real. They had to hear what you said. And I told you I wanted you to talk about this because enough people hear the truth. They don't hear the truth. They don't hear about the fact that, oh, you and your wife would get along a lot better if you would not be
Stretch it out,
together all the time.
if you bring the clothes together, it's more wrinkle. If you stretch it out, there's wrinkles are not there. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Stretch it
Make
out.
sure everybody you subscribe to my channel, Coaching Matters. You never know when I'm going to grab this guy and bring him back on this channel because I need him to come on here. We chat a lot about different things because of course we're both coaches and we're both doing what we do. Make sure to subscribe to his channel. He has a phenomenal channel called Satori Seals, and he's got a what is it?
My
Why do
Patreon.
Patreon? I'm sorry, it just slipped my mind. He has a Patreon. So please support his Patreon. He's a powerful, powerful person out here doing the same work I do. And listen, we don't play when it comes to really helping, healing, and encouraging. He also does energy body work, as do I. So make sure to check them out on YouTube. Again, we really want to help people to see the real truth behind relationships. We're a little tired of hearing all this stuff that really isn't helping. It's more or less just talking and getting nowhere. We are about resolution, we're about wisdom, and we're about really tapping into that living soul because we all have one. I appreciate everybody on here that came. Be sure to share this video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. He's going to put his links in here, so you make sure to get on and support him as well. I appreciate you, Mr. Seals. Thanks again for your intricate information about relationships. I appreciate you. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.